Hello and welcome to this Lentic AIM training video. My name is Ruth Whittington and I'm a wetland ecologist with Colorado Natural Heritage Program. During this presentation, I'll be giving a brief overview of the technology we'll be using for data collection across the field season. Information presented in this video has been compiled into the Lentic AIM Technology Manual, available within the General Teams folder. Look there for more detailed step-by-step instructions and feel free to reach out to me with any questions that come up. As we've discussed during other training videos, the AIM strategy is made up of 5 key elements that aid in collecting standardized and defensible monitoring data. Of these aspects, one of these aspects is that we use electronic data capture and management to increase our data quality, availability, and usability. For the Lentic program, this will consist of using iPads in conjunction with Esri data collection and management applications, namely Field Maps and Survey123. First, let's go over the data structure. Currently, all potential sites for the season are hosted in ArcGIS Online in a single feature class. Over the last couple of weeks, your team leads have been working hard to sort through all of these points and evaluate whether they meet our target population. They've also been writing out access directions and then grouping them together into hitches so that you know what to do during the field season. Prior to leaving on Hitch, you'll download this cloud data from ArcGIS Online to your iPads using an app called Field Maps. For any of you who have used Collector in the past, Field Maps is an updated version. During the field season, you'll use this app to direct you to your sample location. Once you arrive as close as possible to your sample location, you'll use the plot in Field Maps to launch a new field visit point where you can indicate the kind of sample you'll be taking. From this point, you will launch all field forms to open in Survey123, automatically pushing forward some plot identification information. Upon arriving back into service, the field visits layer and all completed field forms will be submitted back to the cloud so that your crew managers and the data team can review points and look through your data. An additional external script will be run to check for obvious errors in the form and create a QC error report for field teams to address. These error reports will be uploaded to your team folder as an Excel file where together we'll figure out how to best address the errors that come up. Now that I've gone over the data structure, I will highlight some aspects of data management to ensure all crew members are on the same page. At this point, most crew leads have hopefully gone through the steps found in the technology manual on setting up your iPad for the season. I'm not going to go over these steps, but there are some crucial settings that all crew members should be aware of to make sure they don't get changed in the middle of the season. Specifically, iPad settings should be changed to prevent auto-syncing and auto-updates. This is particularly important for Survey123, as mid-season app updates from Esri could break our forms and cannot be undone after they've been updated. Do not update Survey123 in the middle of the season unless you hear from the National Lentic AIM team that it is okay to do so. Finally, consider any resources that would be good to download to your iPads for reference in the field. This should include the 2021 Lentic AIM Field Protocol, the Technology Manual, and your Hitch plans as they become finalized, as well as any other resources you find helpful. Once your iPads are set up, you're ready to start preparing to go out in the field. This includes a few preparatory steps to complete before every hitch. Crews should double-check their iPads to ensure that all necessary materials will function offline. Pre-trip checklists provide a good resource of tasks to accomplish before leaving service. To go over just a few of these items, first you will need to download a map and field maps for offline use. You can do this directly from the field map shared to the BLM AIM Lentic group, or from a field map filtered to just the points you'll visit during this hitch. This step will need to be completed for every hitch, even if you are returning to the same area. We may update the field map during the field season to fix any issues with forms or map functionality. And so to get all of the updates that we make, you'll need to re-download and recreate any maps. Next, you should download or update all Survey123 forms as necessary. This will be particularly important after training. For training, field crews should have already downloaded all of the 2021 Lentic training forms, but once training has been completed, all training forms should be deleted and the real 2021 Lentic forms should be downloaded. There may be small updates that occur after this initial download, but these should show up in a ribbon at the bottom of your Survey123 forms or the form menu when it's connected to Service. Finally, we will provide a series of georeferenced maps for each site to be used within the Paper Maps app. These allow you to see a static map of the area of each site and can help determine plot layout, identify potential disturbances, and provide you with another source of road information. These are available in your States folder on Teams, with each site having 3 map files as seen here. Once you have all necessary files and maps downloaded, your iPads are ready for field data collection. You'll be using your iPads extensively in the field, so make sure to take care of them and closely track their battery life. If you're in the car, both iPads should be plugged in. If you're in the field, consider turning down screen brightness, turning off the screen if you aren't using it, and always make sure the face is out of the sun so it doesn't overheat. When it comes to data collection itself, all data should start from a sample location in Field Maps. From this point, you'll then launch a field visit point with the iPads right next to each other to ensure identical information is entered into both iPads. Then, after saving this field visit point, a pop-up will open which will allow you to launch Survey123 forms. You can see this in the middle image on this slide, with the launch location verification form link at the bottom of that box. Field forms take pieces of information from the field point, including the evaluation ID. These fields will not be able to be edited directly in the form itself. So I recommend that you double check once you've created the field visit point that the evaluation ID is using the correct plot date combination and that it is identical across both iPads. Looking at the Survey123 forms themselves, when they are working and used correctly, they can do a lot for us. They automatically link all data to a location without needing an external GPS device. They can also guide sampling and provide additional questions based on the answers you provide. For example, we have a set of notes and questions on the plot characterization form to help guide you through plot layout based on the dimensions of your plot. They can also flag and constrain data that doesn't make sense and prevent you from submitting errors that don't match what is expected. When we see here, we see in the water chemistry form that it will ask you additional questions about calibration if a value is higher or lower than expected. It also won't let me submit the form with a pH of 15, since pH values are on a scale of 0 to 14. Each of the forms have their own set of checks, and I've provided suggestions on form-specific best practices in the technology manual to begin to address the questions that may come up. Many of these things may not make sense until you're working in the forms themselves, so I'll skip going over most of them here. I do just want to highlight one form, the known error form, today, since there will not be a reason to cover it along with the method in the field. You can submit several types of errors using the known error form. For example, you should use this form to submit corrections to your data that you're unable to fix yourself. Imagine you misidentify a species on LPI, for example. To fix this problem yourself, you would have to go back through every point in LPI forms of each transect and look for entries of the species. For this kind of problem, you should instead submit a known error form to clearly explain the problem, and we'll take care of it on the back end. Alternatively, you may have trouble entering data as you measure it. While we tested each form extensively, there may be issues that we didn't predict while testing the forms in the office. If you have a problem with one of the forms or a suggestion to improve its functionality, the known errors form can be used as a way to track these comments as you think of them in the field. It's also a good idea in this case to take a screenshot of the problem as you are having it, as another way to explain the issue to us. Finally, you might have a question that comes up while you're applying the protocol. While you won't be able to get an answer from crew managers on site, using the known error forms will be a good way to flag those questions so they are addressed before your next hitch. When exiting any form in Survey123, you should carefully manage when you are saving and submitting your data. In the past, I've usually saved all but the most complicated forms in drafts until my crew has completed sampling. As a last check before leaving a site, we would then go through as a team with both iPads and make sure we have opened and completed every form as necessary. For many forms, some QC checks only happen when you submit the forms, so it is best to submit forms before you leave so you can correct any issues that may come up. There are a couple exceptions to this based on the forms themselves. First, the most complicated forms, including LPI, annuity structure, and annual use, should be submitted immediately after collecting data to avoid losing any of the data you've entered. Second, species inventory and unknown species forms are often added to and adjusted during Office Plant ID Day at the end of the hitch, and they become more difficult to edit after they have been sent. For this reason, I would wait to submit these forms until after you've spent some time in the office, finalizing your species lists and identifying unknowns. Once you return from a hitch and before you leave on break, all forms should be submitted and field maps should be synced so that crew managers and I can review data for errors and respond to data issues that might come up. After submitting forms and syncing edits to field visits, the pop-up window that shows up after clicking the field visit point in field maps will highlight any issues on the number of forms submitted for a given site. For example, you can see in this pop-up that multiple soil forms were submitted. In this case, I would want to submit a known error form to make sure it's clear why that has happened. There will also be a few more checks we perform on the forms while you are on break. These will flag issues with missing forms, as well as check species lists across all of the forms and make sure they all make sense. These errors will need to be addressed by crew members either by fixing the problems themselves or by submitting known error forms. Data for site is only truly complete when all forms have been submitted and all errors have been addressed by the crew.